Welcome to Disaster Sim, a real-world survival simulation series that is designed to test and to track the practical skills that you need to survive and outlast modern-day disasters.
Freezing rain will transition into heavy snow overnight with 8 to 10 inches expected by morning, and even higher totals likely west of the city. Numerous accidents have been reported, and conditions will only worsen as ice builds beneath the snowfall.
Over the next episodes, you're going to learn how to survive a 72-hour winter storm blackout. That's going to be this episode right here.
Stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. Emergency crews are stretched thin and travel is strongly discouraged. Stay tuned for
It is fall, it's football season, and it's getting ready to be winter. So I think it's timely that we go through that. You're also going to learn how to defend your home during a urban unrest event. How about adapting to life after a full-scale EMP strike? We're going to learn how to practically bug in. We're going to learn to properly and practically bug out. And we're also going to bug out smart. Now, cooking, we're going to heat, we're going to think like a survivor. We're going to learn all these things together. That's part of this series. We're going to build a layered resistance in any environment, whether it's from a tiny apartment to a rural homestead. Each episode, we're going to simulate a different emergency. No power, no safety net. No magical gear, just skills and mindset and practical preparedness gear. So let's get into it. The power goes out, it is cold outside, and that starts now. Oh, I'm glad I have my flashlight. Let's keep going. Here is the scenario. You just lost power. It's 22 degrees outside and snowing hard. And the utility company is silent. And for some reason, your cell phone isn't getting any service. There's no heat, there's no lights, there's no answers. You are on your own for the next 72 hours. Now put yourself in this situation. This just happened. The power is out. You can hear all the appliances in the house shutting down. You can hear the building creaking from the cold. Temperatures are falling. So what do you do first? Let's start with the most important thing first, and that is the warmth that's already in the house. So grab the closest flashlight that you have to you, and luckily I had one in my pocket. We're gonna go check the thermostat because I know I can already feel the temperature dropping in here. How about you? Let's go check that thermostat right now. With all of this, time is absolutely critical. So in the next 72 hours, your mission is simple. And that is to retain body heat. It is to keep food safe. It is to stay hydrated yourself and your family. Make sure people are drinking enough water. It's also to avoid injury because, as you know, the scenario, the roads are going to be full of ice and snow and blowing and dark and cold. All of those things are a dangerous situation. So stay alert. Try to stay informed as much as possible. I know your cell phone isn't working right now. Check out the radio, get an emergency radio going like this one.
This is a severe weather alert. Temperatures are expected to dip into the 20s tonight.
You can sometimes get an extra radio report just on the weather stations in your area. So check that out, click it on, see if there's anything there. If not, maybe you're on your own, but then use your best judgment. We're going to talk about how to retain heat in your apartment, in your house, in a barn, in a garage, whatever it is. We're going to talk about retaining that precious heat because that's really important in this situation where we have no power. especially in an apartment where you maybe don't have control over the heat source as much as other residences do. You really have to conserve the heat that you already have. So here's some actions that you can take. So shut all doors to create a heat bunker. And maybe hang some blankets over windows. There's some windows that just lose a lot of heat. And in this situation, hang some blankets. If you got some extra blankets, put them up there with tacks or whatever you can find to stick them up there. So also stuff towels under doorways because there's a gap a lot of times, and sometimes that weather stripping is not as good as it should be. So put a towel there. Make sure there's no air infiltrating in, especially if that wind is blowing against the side of the building. Really important. And then layer your clothing. So just like you were to be outside, you want to layer that clothing from an under layer to a mid layer to an over layer, depending on what the temperature is doing inside now, because we don't have a heat source. So just make sure you stay on top of that. You don't want to be sweating, but you don't want to be cold because that just uses extra calories that your body has to burn to keep warm. So watch the layering, and again, stay hydrated. Let's get the generator out of storage. We need to get this generator outside. We need to get it somewhere where it's fairly hidden away, somewhere where the noise isn't going to spread as much, and somewhere inconspicuous, so that if there is anybody that is kind of lurking around, they won't be as suspicious. We can only do as good as we can because generators are loud. Let's move this to a better area. It's day 2 in this scenario, and I know that in the scenario it says it's -20. It obviously isn't when I'm recording this because I want to prepare us before any of this happens, and I am thankful that it is not in the 20s right now. But in day 2, the fridge and the freezers are warming up, and I need to get this power critical gear going on right now. So let's do that. So we've moved our generator outside because you don't want any of that carbon monoxide in a contained area, even in a garage. It is dangerous to do that. And in my system, in our old house, we had a whole house generator system. When we had to move because of helping out my parents, we are in a house that does not have that tie-in yet. At this moment, I am just going to worry about the fridges and the freezers, and we'll talk about some of these other things that you can do with the generator in a minute. So let's get this going. One thing that we should talk about is how do we plug our appliances in? So this is a large cord that I got because we have the ability to put out a large amount of amps. So this is a 30 amp cord that we can plug in. As you can see, quite a few different cords to it. It's got its own little breakers in there so you can't overload things. And I like it because it's fairly simple. You can run it from your generator inside to your garage or your basement, wherever your freezers are. So let's give this a try. So you want to make sure before you even start that you've got adequate fuel. This one has a fuel gauge on top, and yes, it shows that we are ready to go. Another really important thing, and you should have already done this in your maintenance, is just making sure that you have adequate oil. So I can easily check this, can look at that, and yes, it is perfectly within that dipstick. So I'm just gonna put that back in there. I just like to do it. I think it's an old farmer thing, just to check and make sure that you have the oil and it looks good. So let's go ahead, we'll try to start this up. Make sure that you've got it set for gas, you've got gas in the tank, make sure you're set for start on the choke. And there we go, we've got power. Hold on. So you can see this end goes into this, and then you gotta flip. Now you can hear the generator working. I hope you can hear that. You hear the change? That's without the load, and now that's with the load. How it works. Let's talk about gasoline. I rotate my generator use, so it's not on all the time. You don't need to have generator power to your freezers every minute of a 24-hour day. You can conserve fuel, so overnight, if it's off for a few hours, that's okay. You start it up, get her going, get those temperatures down in the freezers, and you'll be just fine. So just watch that, and then also, store stabilized gasoline and cycle that every month. I did a whole video on fuel storage. You should go watch that one. It's just covering that exact thing. So store stabilized gasoline. Also, this one is a dual fuel, so have bottles of propane as well that you can run with your generator. In our old house, we had a wood stove that we ran about 6 or 7 months out of the year. But in this house, after we moved, we don't have a wood stove. So this is something that we've had actually for over a decade that we use as supplement heat if we need to. So we used it one time when our furnace quit and we couldn't get it repaired for about 6 or 7 days. And that kept the house reasonably warm. It's not something that you can leave on overnight. You have to have someone on fire watch, but it works and it keeps the house from freezing. So I'm gonna demonstrate how to do this, how to light it, and we'll go from there. And wow, I am sweating from moving around that generator. It's hard work doing videos on your days off, but hey, let's give this a shot. So we're just gonna turn this wick up, and then we're gonna, there, as you can see, it's spreading across. We're gonna leave that go for just a little bit. We're gonna adjust this wick as we see it burning. So we don't wanna see smoke. I did see a little puff of smoke. But now that I've put the shield down, it's not gonna do that. And you just turn this until you have a nice flame. And it takes a little bit to get going as that kerosene wicks up into it. You're gonna see it there. As you can see, it was hard to see from the other angle, but that's the flame that's going on in there. It's just nice. And then what I can do is, again, turn this knob and I can make it higher or lower. I think I'd like to keep it a little higher, just about like that. Now, yeah, that's some good heat coming off of there. That looks beautiful. Now, because we've lit it in the garage, you know, where we've got proper safety devices and we've also got them inside, I just like to light it in the garage in case there's a little bit of black smoke as it's getting warm. But after you've got it lit, you can carry it in the house. No problem with this carrying handle that is on here. So I'm gonna do that. So now we're in the living room and you can see this flame is just a nice, beautiful flame, and this is performing well, and it's gonna keep this whole area of the house warm. So now that this is burning so nicely, what do you do when you're done with it? Well, you need to extinguish it. So the proper way to do that is to turn this all the way down to 0, as low as you can. And then what you want to do is open this door, and then you're going to hit this button, which is the extinguish button. So then if you need to, you can blow it out. And now you can see that there is no flame in there whatsoever. So what we're gonna do is close that and let that cool off for a bit before we ever put it in any sort of storage area. We want it to be completely cooled. Again, the power is out, so it is relatively dark in here, but the natural sunlight coming in, I hope will be enough to see what I'm doing with this propane heater. Now, how do we get this going? Well, you've got a couple options as far as fuel. You can actually put 2 of these 1-pound cylinders in each side of this, and I'm gonna show you how that goes. But you can also buy an extra, this is a 10-foot hose that you can attach a 20-pound, 30-pound bottle of propane to. Now, this is an actual propane filter. What this does is if there's sediment or anything in those large bottles, it doesn't get inside here and clog up the burners. So that's really important to have that filter if you're using the large propane tanks. So let's get this started. So what we want to do is push this knob down and over to the pilot setting. And as you can see, there's flame there. And then what we can do is just let it go on the pilot for just a little while to warm up that thermocouple. And then we'll turn on the main burner. So we're just gonna let this sit for a couple 30 seconds or so. Okay, now that this is burnt for about 30 seconds, I'm gonna go to turn on the main burner. So again, I'm gonna push this down, and there you can see the one side has lit. So that's on low. So that's this side. I'm not sure if you can see that well, but now I'm gonna turn it all the way up. Now the other side is lit, so this is on high, and it is putting off an amazing amount of heat right now. In fact, I'm gonna move away from it just a little bit because it's getting pretty hot right above this. So as you can see, these are warming up. They're gonna heat up your house. And you can use these little bottles, the small bottles of propane, on high will heat for about 4 hours. So not a long time, but that's a good amount of extra heat. Wow, and this is really putting off a lot of heat. So I'm gonna turn it off. You always want fresh air with these. So you need to provide some sort of ventilation. You need to crack a window and never go to sleep while this is going. You always wanna have someone on fire watch. Also, have a carbon monoxide detector installed close by. If you've got an electric cooktop, when the power goes out, it's not gonna work. So you need something as an alternative. And in the past, I've shown you some different options, and I'm gonna go over the butane stove that you can buy for about $20, maybe $30 for a really nice one, and grab a stack of 4 butane containers or 8. They usually come in a 3 or a 4 pack. Then you have enough to last through an emergency. This is a 1 burner outfit, but you can cook all sorts of canned food. If you just need to boil water, you can do that. If you need to purify water by melting snow, you can do that, because remember, in this scenario, it is snowing a large amount. So go out and collect a little bit of snow, put it in a pot, get some water if you need it. But like I've said in many other videos, you should have water stored up for a minimum of 3 days to actually what I say is a minimum of 14 days for your family. An alternative, if you are not cooking for a family or just for yourself or as a couple, you just need, maybe it's just a small little backpacking stove. These things are inexpensive. They are really easy to use, and you can make a meal, especially a freeze-dried meal where it's just coming out of a bag, high quality ingredients. You dump it in, you add some water, and you boil that up. And in a couple minutes, like 3-5 minutes, something like that, inside these high quality freeze-dried meals are a balanced meal where you've got your protein and your carbohydrates and fats in a balanced situation with some vegetables in there. Now, if you have other dietary requirements, go ahead and do that. I myself am more of a carnivore, so that's why the generator was so important to keep going, because a lot of my food is frozen. But you can throw in canned meat into that pot, getting it hot on the stove is going to provide such a mental boost to have a hot meal when everything is going wrong in your world outside. So focus on this, get it prepared before winter comes. And again, I'm going to reiterate, have a working carbon monoxide alarm on the same floor that you're cooking in, have it nearby. Where your heater is, have it nearby. Just makes sense, doesn't it? Now, cooking outside has some very good options to it. There is an outdoor fire pit like this. There is a propane grill. You can use a propane stovetop. So there's other options available to you when you get outside. But remember, in this scenario, we're talking about a possible ice storm, a blizzard with probably winds. So building a fire outside may be a difficult thing, especially out there in the cold. But if it is your only resort, your last resort, then go for it. You can use a fire pit like this for many things, and I've shown in another video how to make bread in a Dutch oven, how to make jerky over this, how to preserve that meat, and also how to make stew. That was a really fun video to make, and I'm sure you'd enjoy it. Just be conscious of how many calories and how much effort it's going to be to do this kind of thing. You need to be in a sheltered area, especially if there's some wind. The key thing that you need to remember with all of this cooking is you need fuel. For this, I have my wood pile just over there. And for anything, you need fuel. So for your propane stove, for your propane grill, you need propane. And I did a whole video as well on fuel storage and fuel rotation. So that is a video that coincides with this one. It may seem simple until it's not, but always keep an extra can opener or two around, and also keep a couple extra tanks of propane. They actually don't last that long if you're using it for your primary source of cooking. So make sure you have 2, 3, I keep about 6. In this kind of scenario, when the lights go out, your world shrinks fast. So light keeps you safe, focused, and sane. I just did a whole video on lighting and lighting systems for emergencies and disaster preparedness. I'm not sure why it didn't get the traction that I thought it should, but you can go and check that out and let me know what you think. Obviously, there's a little bit of play acting involved, but as you can see behind me, it is fall. Those leaves are starting to turn yellow, and fall is going to turn into winter, and then we're talking about the scenario that is laid out here. So I want to give you the best options before we get there so you have time to prepare. One of the best options, other than the flashlights and the headlamps and the kerosene lanterns that I showed on the other video, is this battery powered LED lantern. And this is one of my son's actually, and it has multiple ways to hang it up. It has a lot of different modes on it. So different brightnesses, and then you can go between them. And then it's got a red, it's got a strobe. And I don't know how to work it completely because it's his, but there you go. You've got a solid base, you can hang it. There's also another hanging option that you can use. So this just has a lot of different options. This is completely waterproof as well. It can go right underwater. So great options if you want just to have this very safe lantern for lighting your way, keeping yourself from stumbling. Important stuff. On top of this, a viewer brought up something to me in the last video that I did on lighting, and that is the solar charged garden lights. And we have them around our house, but I've actually never thought about bringing them inside. But you can absolutely do that in an emergency. If it is one of those long storms, those aren't going to have a lot of power, but in a short-term emergency, it can give you some light, and a little bit of light is better than nothing. Headlamps are so important. I love headlamps because they are hands-free. So I actually have a ton of them. Everyone in our family has multiple headlamps for different uses, and specifically ones for emergency, and then flameless candles you can get, LED candles, and then actual real candles, which have their own danger involved. Whenever you have open flames, like the kerosene heater, like a wood stove, like the propane heater that I showed, those all need some sort of watches and making sure that they are handled correctly. So make sure you know what you're doing. Never leave an open flame unattended or near anything flammable. Also, never bring a stove or a barbecue that is designed for outside inside. That is a definite no-no. And whenever you're using an open flame, you need ventilation. So make sure you're doing these things correctly and stay safe. In a blackout, isolation and anxiety can creep in fast. And this has been shown in multiple scenarios throughout history. So this section is about our safety and sanity. So one of the most important things that you can do is maintain a routine as a couple, as yourself, especially as yourself. But again, with children involved, they thrive on a normal routine. So have your morning check-in and your evening wind down. Have those things established. Play cards. You can journal. Or if you like to read like I do, read. Read a lot. Keep the mind active, but always be safe. Pay attention to what's going on. If you're using candles or lanterns or heaters, make sure that you are keeping an eye, like maybe read your book beside them so you know what's going on, right? Put someone on fire watch. So make sure that they are beside those items so that they are making sure that they are being operated safely. And also just be in the moment. So be quiet and listen and check for outside noise, because sometimes that is your best warning. In a scenario like this where it may be dark, it may be, there may be blinding snow, there may be a fog, an ice fog or something like that, your hearing becomes very important. So make sure that you pick times and you just say, quiet, quiet everyone, we're gonna listen. And you listen. Sometimes we don't like silence, but it's important in these scenarios to have a moment of silence, and it's good for us. So check for outside noise. That's really important for safety. You can hear if anyone is maybe creeping the house or something sinister like that. Important to do. Here is your safety checklist. I've already said carbon monoxide, but make sure your smoke detectors are working on every level of your home and have battery backup. Make sure your pathways in your house are clear of debris. You can't have stuff all over the place, all over your floor. If that means that you need to get busy at doing that right now, clean up those pathways, do it. I promise you it's better than tripping and falling and hurting yourself or breaking something. So also on the outside of your home, making sure that sidewalks that are going to need to be cleared before the storm even hits, make sure that those are cleared so that it's easy to clear. Make sure that the obstacles are out of the way, and make sure that generators are ready to go. We make sure the oil is changed, the gasoline is relatively fresh or it's got stabilizers in it. And then another note on generator safety and heater safety, those kind of things that are running an open flame or your generator, shut them off before you go to sleep. Unless you have a generator that has its own minder and it is designed for that. But most portable generators, just turn them off. You don't need to run them for those 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 hours or whatever it is that you sleep. Make sure that they are shut off and maybe bring them into a sheltered area so that they're easy to start up again when you wake. This disaster scenario is one of the most important scenarios to prepare for other than wildfire. This one of having a winter storm and a blizzard and all of that. At the municipal level, I have prepared warming stations for people that maybe haven't prepared or something broke down and they don't have a secondary means of keeping themselves warm. And I've had to open shelters, and we've had to do things that really shouldn't have to be done, but those people were not prepared. So I'm sharing this message to give you a couple months of preparation before the cold weather hits. So be safe out there. That was really fun. You and I made it 72 hours in freezing temperatures with no power, no help, and no panic. That is resilience. But this is just the beginning. Exciting and practical episodes coming up in this series are urban unrest. I think from what's going on in our society and around the world, we need to talk about urban unrest. Over 80% of people live in an urban area. We need to talk about what is it that we do, what is it that we need to be doing, and how can we prepare for this for before the moment and during that event. We're going to get into it. So another episode is an EMP strike. If one of our adversaries around the world or something from within this country decides to do something crazy and we have an EMP that goes off and basically everything electronic dies, what do we do? What can we do as just ordinary people, as ordinary families to not only prepare for that, but during an event? We're going to simulate that going forward. Plus, during these simulations, you are going to get very detailed pieces on water filtration and bug out kits and bug in scenarios and off-grid cooking. So let's do this together. This channel is all about being practical. I'm talking about the things that we use and that we have practiced with. So now here's a challenge for all of you. Simulate a 72-hour winter blackout at home. Maybe do it when it's not so cold yet, but turn off your breakers. No cheating. See what happens, see what works, see what doesn't, and start fixing your plan. That's all we can do, is just get better every single time. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because it helps this get out to more people. Because our comfort zones won't save us. Only our skills will. And those things are practiced, right? They're practiced, they are perfected, they are worked on. You can have a great generator, you can have a great heater, but if it doesn't work, if you can't get it to work, or you don't know exactly what to do with it in the moment, it's no use. And then we're back to square one. So let's practice our skills, whatever it be, whether it be cooking, whether it be heating, whether it be navigating, whether it be personal defense. Let's practice those skills over and over and over until we feel like we are confident in using those in a real emergency. Until next time, stay safe, and I look forward to being with you again next week.